Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us for today's Total Attorneys Power Chat. We are very lucky to have Mary Jo Clark of the Clark Law Offices here with us today. And Mary Jo has a very diverse background. She originally is from the Midwest, born in Iowa City. She graduated from the University of Arizona in Tucson and received her law degree from Tulane Law School in Louisiana. After graduating law school, she moved to Chicago, where she began practicing law. She's been practicing bankruptcy since 2001, and she worked with a large bankruptcy firm and later opened an office for that firm in Phoenix, Arizona. In 2005, she left that firm to start her own bankruptcy practice. 6 years later, she employs a staff of nearly 20, including 3 attorneys. She enjoys the smaller practice environment and feels that her clients appreciate the one-on-one attention that she is able to provide them. Her firm emphasizes quality of service and charges fees in accordance with a commitment. She emphasizes quality over quantity when it comes to her client base and sees the reward in a high number of referrals. She has made countless bad business decisions over the past 6 years, but has learned from each one and thinks that she is a better business person for it. She also says that aside from raising her daughter, owning her bankruptcy practice is one of the most rewarding things she has ever done. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mary Jo.
Thank you.
And we have a couple of housekeeping notes before we get started with today's session. If you have questions for our host, you can Twitter @TotalAttorneys or hashtag PowerChat with your question. Email powerchat@totalattorneys.com. And if you have technical issues during the session, you can email powerchathelp@totalattorneys.com, and someone on our side will be able to assist you. Now, today's topic is how to serve your clients and save your sanity during crunch time. And especially for bankruptcy attorneys, the beginning of the year can be very overwhelming. You can be inundated with business, and it's important to have certain processes in place to help get you through that period and also get the most out of your business as you possibly can without burning out your employees. So, Mary Jo, you've refined a lot of processes in your office over the last few years, and thank you so much for sharing those with us today. I'll hand it over to you as we get started talking about planning for that busy season.
Okay, thanks, Chelsea. And what I did is break so I've kind of had a learning curve over the years. I definitely have made a lot of mistakes, as I mentioned, and I think some of the things that I am going to talk about today are so intuitive that I wonder why it took me so long to think of a lot of these things, but it has helped me a lot to do some of these things that I'll talk about today. And I did divide it into 4 categories: preparation, people, processes, and financials. And so on the category of preparation, the first thing I always want to mention is that the holiday season is a downtime in our office, and I'm sure it is in most everybody's office in the bankruptcy practice. And we tend to get, or used to tend to get, a little lethargic in the office during holiday season. The phones stop ringing, the clients are a little less anxious about getting their cases filed, and they tend to have other things on their mind. Not to mention we have a lot of people out of the office for vacation, so it is really easy to kind of get caught up in the holiday season ourselves. But what I've learned over the years is that the holiday season is a lost opportunity if you don't use that time to really get ahead on your work. So what I do for the holiday season is I really take that time, and really this is starting around Thanksgiving, so starting in mid-November all the way through December, when things start to get really quiet in my office, I really start to push my staff to get anything that can be done, done. And the nice thing about the phones not ringing is that we can get a lot of petitions typed and a lot of filings prepped, as we call it in our office. So what I do is I really push my clients or my staff to file more cases than we do in any typical month of the year. In fact, to file more in December. Those cases that are kind of complex or have been hanging around, we push them through. I also push my clients. I have a lot of clients who kind of procrastinate getting me those last pay stubs or pay off that final $100 balance or whatever to get their case filed. I get on the phone and I basically harass them to get their case filed, and I motivate them by kind of dangling that carrot of let's get your case filed this year so you can start the new year fresh. And so I work really hard during December, and so does everyone in my office, to really get, like I said, get the backlog out of the way so that when holiday season does approach us, we're ready to just deal with the new filings instead of those old filings, and the hope is that we can avoid what can be a bottleneck as soon as cases start getting paid in full. The second thing I do, starting in around November, our office sends a monthly billing reminder to all of our clients to remind them of their balance and to remind them to send in a monthly payment to us. I have a special billing reminder called a tax refund billing reminder. And what that notice does is not only remind them of their balance and to send in a payment, but to have a little conversation about tax refund season coming up, or the fact that they may have a tax refund coming up, and that those tax refunds could be a great way to pay off their attorney's fees. So I do start putting the bug in their ear even before they've contemplated filing taxes, because I don't want them earmarking it for something more fun than paying their attorney's fees. I want to kind of nip that in the bud right away. The other thing I put in that that billing reminder, along with the tax refund discussion, is a discussion of, for those clients who don't plan to use their tax refund money to pay attorney's fees, I put a little cautionary note or a warning to say, if you're not planning to use that money to pay me, you should call me to talk about what you do want to use that money for. And this can avoid, as you know, problems in cases later if it was going to end up being a preferential payment, or if they were planning to use the money for something that would have been a non-exempt asset. I can have that discussion and kind of cross that bridge before it becomes a problem. It's also a last chance effort for me to try to talk them into the benefits of using that money for paying attorney's fees. So a lot of times when I get them on the phone, I can tell them, no, this is not a great idea, or perhaps a better idea is paying your legal fees and getting your case filed. So I start mailing that out in November, and I continue to mail it all the way through May, basically, for the people who might have filed late. The next thing I do in preparation for the busy season has to do with petitions, of course. What I do is look through my database of clients and see who's close to paying in full, and start typing their petitions now. And the definition of close becomes a little more broad as I approach busy season, whereas my normal would be start typing when they're within $500 of paying in full. I might stretch it to $1,000 if I have the time to type all those. I know I'm going to eventually type those. And if they're this close to paying in full, it might be a good idea to use my slow time or my downtime to get these petitions at least in the preparation stages, so that if they happen to pay off with their tax refund, we have something basically ready to go for them. And it creates great customer service, and also, again, prevents that bottleneck later. The other thing I do with regard to petition preparation is anytime I have a conversation with a client and that client tells me, oh, I'm going to pay you in full with my tax refund, I'm not making a payment this month, I'm just going to pay in full with my tax refund, I'm also going to pull that file and start typing the petition, because we know it's coming. Why wait till the last minute to get started on it? So those are a couple great ways to kind of get a head start on work that you know you will need to be doing later in the year or later in the busy season. The second category I want to talk about has to do with the people. The people, of course, are the integral part of office, and the people are what makes my office run. And for my staff who hasn't been with me for a couple of years, I need to prepare them for what busy season's all about, because they're, of course, coming out of December where we were pretty slow on the phones and not a lot of stress. It's the complete opposite once, I kind of think of February 15th as the day the spigot turns on, but once I start getting these clients paying in full, they're calling all the time, where's my petition, what's happening, what do I do next? And so this is only going to start ramping up. And I try to let my staff know what's going to happen. We're going to be very busy typing petitions, very busy with phone calls, and very busy with filings. And I like to let them know it's going to be stressful. This is what's going to happen. This is what to expect. And it's only temporary. It'll end in a couple months, so we just need to get through it and enjoy it as much as possible. The other thing I do with regard to people is I set realistic expectations within my staff, and I try to help them set realistic expectations with our clients. So as we get more and more filings, our timelines might change a little. So during busy season, what may take us a week in a typical month may take us 2 weeks because there's such a larger queue of people waiting for work to be done. We need to understand what we are capable of accomplishing in busy season, not over promise, under deliver. I'd rather do the opposite. Under promise, over deliver. So if you think it's going to take a week to do something, advise your client that it could be 2 weeks to get it done in the busy season. And the clients don't really have to know that that's longer than normal. They just have to know what to expect from us. So I think that is always beneficial from the outset, so that there is no disappointment on anybody's end. It also creates a better timeline, so for the urgent cases that pop up, we can give them an expedited filing without really pushing anybody back further than they needed to be. So that's one, I think, setting realistic expectations is really important for everyone. As far as financial rewards, the way that I pay my staff is based on a salary. I think my salary I paid my staff is very conservative. It's not super high, not super low, but I do offer a bonus to all of my support staff and the attorneys, in fact, based on behaviors that I'd like to see out of them. And those are basically behaviors that create better customer service and will make more money, will make the business more profitable. So one example of that may be for my support staff or my assistants, if they can get a petition typed and prepped and ready for filing, and I can file a case within 30 days of paying in full, I think that's a pretty good turnaround. Obviously shorter is better, but I think 30 days clients can be satisfied with that. And so I will offer a bonus to my staff for getting that done. I also offer a bonus for typing petitions over a certain number and filing cases over a certain number. So the nice thing about busy season is that even though they're working harder and the stress level is high, they're also making a lot more money. And so that kind of is a little bit of a high end or a positive side to the busy season for them. And it's not like they're getting the same pay and doing more work. So that's one thing that's really worked out for the office.
And I think both clients, oh, sorry, Mary, the expectation for employees, you know, especially coming off of the holiday season where there's travel and lots of gift purchases, you know, it's something that they can look forward to and a good start to their new year, having that additional financial cushion. And it's also just a good mental reset before they go into that period, that there's a monetary reward on the other side. And for clients, I think it's an excellent element of customer service to be able to give them, you know, that expected date that they can return, that they'll see the work completed or a returned petition or filing to be done.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think I tell my staff that up until the point that the client essentially pays in full or pays the percentage that we expect from them, the ball's in their court. They're running the show. But where we really show what we're made of is from that point that we start typing the petition. And so when we fail to meet a deadline or an expectation, that just we've failed in our job, because it's not all about really just getting a discharge at the end. It's about making promises and living up to them. So we really do focus on that in the office. And when you don't set your expectations properly, it turns into, even though you still did a fine job and the case went smoothly, you disappointed your client throughout the case, and that's not good.
Mm-hmm. Completely agree.
Okay. On the other thing I do during the holiday season is take on temporary staff, because what I found in the past is I power up on staff, I hire a bunch of people, I train a bunch of people to help me get through busy season, and then a couple months later we're all sitting around looking at each other because case filings have gone down, paid in full has gone down, and I'm kind of struggling to make payroll. So I found that it's a lot better to take on temporary staff for simple jobs. I have really great training material, what I think is helps the temporary staff come in and get a good idea of what we do in the office. And I give them simple jobs like type a petition versus talk to clients. And so we do rely on temporary staff, contract staff. I have a girl we've used for a couple of years who just types petitions, and she knows exactly how we like them typed, and I can call her once a year, and she'll take files home, 10 files home, and come back 3 days later with them all typed. And there are a lot of, I know there are a lot of services out there that will do that. So I think that's a better option than hiring, training, and having to let go permanent staff. And the last thing I do is a thank you party. Especially during super busy or stressful years, I try to make the party bigger and, reward the staff for doing a good job and kind of bearing with what can be pretty tough. I think that no matter how much temporary staff I take on and financial rewards I offer, it's still a really tough time of year for everybody in my office. So usually around June, we'll have a little end of season party to thank them for everything that they did. I also, during the busy season, like to have, maybe close the office at 2 o'clock on a Friday or 2 and have a little happy hour down the street or buy off lunch in the office. So I try to keep the morale high as best I can during the busy season by giving them little stress relievers. And I think that they do appreciate that.
Absolutely.
On the topic of processes, I kind of think that processes and people go hand in hand. You can have great people, but without good processes, you kind of put them at a disadvantage, and the people really can't get done what they need to do. And I use Time Matter software. I know there are a lot of great programs out there, but I can only speak to this one. And I will say that I used it kind of in the out-of-the-box format for 3 or 4 years, and then discovered that it could be molded to fit my practice. And that's what really turned things around for me as far as efficiency and better customer service, because I was able to create a subcategory to essentially micromanage every aspect of from the first call to our office all the way to beyond discharge. So I can literally go to any tab and see how many people's petitions have been typed but have not been mailed yet, or how many petitions have we have signed from the clients, but we're still waiting on information and exactly what information we need. So I encourage you to make sure your software is doing as much as it can for you, because I truly didn't know that I could do all this with my software, and it's been really amazing. And I put down a couple categories that I use on a constant basis, and I think they're super helpful to me. The first one being balance owed. I can sort my staff or my clients by how much they have left to pay to me. And so that's a great way for me to say, okay, I've got 30 people who have less than $300 left to pay me. Let's get those petitions into typing now. Or if I want to stretch it to 1,000, I can, with one fell swoop, move them forward in the process from what we call payment status to type petition status. And so that allows me to control how fast we're processing these files. Payment history is great too, and this is probably more important during the rest of the year than busy season, but I can look at somebody who has a $300 balance and then take a quick peek at how often they pay and how much they pay. So for somebody who has a $300 balance and they pay $250 a month, they're probably going to pay in full within the next month. I should get started on their paperwork. Whereas somebody who pays me $50 a month, I know they're still 6 months away from paying in full, so I'm not going to move that one forward yet. It's just not a good use of my time. Urgencies is very important. I can track what's going on with the file. We manually put in notes such as sale date or garnishment, or even anxious client wants to file quickly or high maintenance or whatever. I can put a note in there. So if I've got 10 petitions in typing or that need to be typed, I can look through very quickly and see which ones are truly the most urgent and not have to sort by who paid first. So I can move the urgent ones to the front of the pack and then type the rest in the order that they paid in full or got to that payment status. Projected filing date is probably the greatest thing that for my end of the practice that I've ever created, and that is just what it sounds like. It's a spot in the computer where I put the date I expect to file that case, and we can sort by that. So I can pull that up and just look at what my next week is going to look like, or my next month, to see if I'm filing a lot of cases or just a few. It also enables my support staff to communicate better with the clients and with me. So I have a timeline where if I'm going to file a case on a certain day, I need the file in final condition for filing for my final review by X number of days prior to that date, which means that my support staff needs to have some time to prepare it and needs to give the client a deadline in advance of the date that she needs to give it to me. So we've set up a timeline that everybody knows, and we verbally and through email communicate to the client, we're going to file on this date, which means we need all of this documentation by that date. And if you fail to do that, your filing will be delayed by 1 full week, or whatever your system happens to be. And it's worked out really well because we don't have clients calling saying, wait a minute, I gave you my pay stub, why didn't you file? If it's not in by noon on Monday, that's why we didn't file. And so clients will call and apologize to me a lot of times. Sorry, I didn't get it in. And then I can look like a good guy if I can still push it through. Or I can say, that's all right, let's push it out 1 more week. So that's been really helpful for me. And I think it has improved our customer service a lot.
Absolutely. I think having an overall view of what the history of that customer has been with you, everything from payments, case notes, just easily searchable and visible within a case management tool is extremely helpful to everybody in the office and can be applied to a lot of different situations. We have a question from a listener. What program are you using to manage all of these statuses?
It's just Time Matters, and I was at a conference a couple years ago, and there was a company that does a Time Matters overlay, and I actually I have a Time Matters consultant, and I was telling him that I was planning to buy it, and he said, why don't you just let me create something specifically designed for you? It'll cost less money, and etc., and it'll be more catered to you. So that's what we did. So it is Time Matters, and I won't say Time Matters is the perfect or the greatest software out there, but it's what I've always used, and I've not had too many problems with it. But the customization's been great.
Do you mind sharing the consultant that you worked with us?
Yeah, not at all. He's great. His name is Richard Marks.
Okay.
And he's located in Phoenix, but I know for a fact he works with firms nationwide.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about on processes does have to do with the case progress, which what I meant by that was basically that as owner of the business, it's my job to do constant audits of each of these categories. And the goal not to necessarily be to see where we are, which is part of it, but also to see where we will be. And especially now as as we're getting into busy season, I'm watching the balance owed and urgencies and things like that, because I don't want to find out we need a temp person after we already have the backlog. I want to get that person in and up and running even before it hits us. So as I see things starting to pile up, I can go to this tab, and 10 seconds later I have my answer. It'll even count the number of petitions for me. So if having all these tabs is fairly worthless if I'm not logging into them or tuning into them and seeing what they're telling me. So auditing is essential in preparing for busy season especially. And then my last thing I wanted to talk about, and this is just a couple minutes I wanted to spend on this, was just to again tell you about some trial and error, and mainly error that I've come across, which is cash flow. Having audited my cash flow during the past 6 years, I think it's my estimation that 6 months of the year is a positive cash flow month, and 6 months of the year are negative cash flow months. And so what I've learned is that all the money in busy season that I make and all the profit we have and all the cushion I can bank is not necessarily my bonus or my income. It really needs to be put into, I have a savings account, and I basically put it all in there and save it for the end of the year, because you don't know what those down months are going to look like. And what I do know for a fact is that I will have down months, and I will need extra cash to cover the negative cash flow in those months. So rather than get to that month and have the stress of how am I going to do this or who am I going to let go, it's nice to have that cushion in there, because basically the busy season is financing the holiday season. At least for me, the holiday season is always a negative cash flow time of year, especially January. So I wait until January every year to kind of see where I am and did I have any left over at the end of the year. And the other thing I will tell you is that every couple of years, not every year, but every couple of years, I have a major expense that I have to pay for. And sometimes it could be a server down or new phone system or whatever. You have to plan for that as well. So, have fun, make a lot of money, and do great work during the busy season, but understand that some of that money is going to have to go back into the business. That was all I had to want to talk about. Those are all my thoughts on busy season.
Great. And I think that the cash flow fluctuation is a hurdle for a lot of businesses. You're never going to have that consistent, steady cash flow, or it'll be very rare if you do. So just know that there are peaks and valleys, and to try and build that cushion in as much as you can for, anything unexpected. If something comes up and maybe you lose a couple of attorneys in the firm that are not bringing in billable hours or producing casework, that could also be an unexpected impact that you would need to prepare and plan for ahead of time.
Exactly. Yep.
And so in a nutshell today, we've covered that preparation is key. Really take advantage of the holiday season and that downtime to prepare for the busy season, especially in bankruptcy. Sending out reminders throughout the year to make sure that you're also collecting on outstanding invoices or payments due from clients. Especially around tax season when they may have a little extra cushion of their own. People keep your office running smoothly, so make sure you keep them happy. Staff up using contract resources if necessary, or virtual bankruptcy assistance or petition preparation services. Implement processes and technology in your firm that will help you measure, track, and just overall have a better understanding of where each of your clients or potential clients may be in the overall process. And then financials are key to keeping a successful business running. Plan for those peaks and valleys and make sure that you have a little extra cushion in place for the unexpected. We do have a couple of questions for you, Mary Jo. Do you use any marketing in the down months to supplement that drop-off? And if so, what methods do you use or have you found most successful?
I haven't really modified marketing during the slower months, and that's not to say that that isn't a great idea, but I usually, I use the same marketing, and I can't imagine that I would want to use marketing a couple months a year. That wouldn't be great the rest of the year as well. So whatever I do to market, I do it year-round.
Okay, and are you using any, what are the marketing strategies that you use in your firm that makes you so busy in the beginning of the month, or is that naturally just walk-ins and the fact that that's a peak in filings in the beginning of the year?
I think that intuitively I think that what creates this busy season right now?
Or do you drive any portion of that busy season with marketing that you're doing year-round?
No, I personally think that this is just a natural cycle in the bankruptcy industry, that it just happens to be the one time of year that my clients happen to have extra money. I mean, I know a lot of my clients, this is their mini savings account, and once a year they get to blow a bunch of money and they buy a car or they buy furniture or whatever. But in this, when they're my client, it just happens to be that I'm the person they spend their big chunk of money on. A lot of my clients get thousands of dollars in tax refunds, so that's why we get so busy, is that the tax refunds come in and a lot of people just pay in full with that. The second being historically that a lot of people who had gone out during the holidays, maybe overspent, are now feeling that or getting the bills in. I don't know if that's true so much anymore, but that used to be the case when credit was gone rampant, that a lot of people will just kind of get the aftershock of the holiday season and come in based on that stress.
Got it. And a couple of associations and websites that our listeners can use as resources when talking about bringing in contract help or petition preparation services. There's a National Association of Virtual Bankruptcy Assistants. They're often at the NACBA conferences, and you can check out their website. We'll be sending that out to everybody in the recap email that you'll receive. And then also lawclerkconnection.com, which is a matchmaking website for attorneys who are either looking for part-time or supplemental help, and attorneys on the other side who are looking to fulfill contract work, full-time positions, or offer their services, even law students jumping into some firm opportunities to get some experience. So those are two great resources that you can check out. We'll send those out to everybody in an email after the session today, as well as a link to watch this presentation again, contact information for Mary Jo, and an optional survey that helps us prepare and improve upon our Power Chats every month. Thank you so much, Mary, for all of your insight and sharing your experiences with us today. We look forward to speaking to everybody again soon on the next Total Attorneys Power Chat.
Thanks, Chelsea.
Thanks, Mary Jo. Everybody have a great weekend. We'll talk to you again soon.